It's just a little after 5. Got less than 2 hours before this whole thing starts. We're nearly set up, and I thought I'd like to walk you through it to give you an idea of how the whole thing is going to unfold. We're taking over the entire building. When people arrive, they'll get one of these charts that shows what happens on each of the floors. We didn't use the second floor of stacks, and we didn't use the floor of offices, so I think we've got 6 floors out of 8 that have something happening on it. When people come in here, they're going to be offered the opportunity to participate instead. Get an envelope of instructions. This will be done more elegantly than I'm doing it now, but I'll offer you that one. Just listening, observing, and so on. And if they choose that.
I'm the author of Most of Persistence, and I'm the alter ego of Matthew Barber, the character in the novel Reservations Recommended. Years ago, Matthew used me as a disguise when he moonlighted as a restaurant reviewer. I was the bitter side of him, and I think the better.
Is the unseen woman. But I've always thought you were quite
It's kind of scary to be here.
One of the things I wanted to do was to try to use each medium in a way that was specific to itself. It was the only medium that would accomplish this part of the story. And when somebody asked me what the hell I meant by that, I said, well, part of this is an overheard conversation. And so I put people into an environment where they seem to be eavesdropping on a conversation. And that's what we have here.
So this is an audio player?
Yeah. In the stacks we've got several iPods. So cleverly hidden that I can't find them now. I got a number of volunteers to perform these pieces as if they were conversations that might have inspired the work. So it's like reverse engineering. I gave them dialogue from the work and encouraged them to use it as something to take off from the improvise.
Where's the conversation over?
In the Casa Fuster in Barcelona, as it happens. Miranda and BW have come to the lounge there, and they just need to sit and chat for a while and have some cava. But they overhear this other conversation, and once they start to listen to it, they become completely absorbed by it.
I don't know. Lately, I find myself wondering where I am.
This unseen man has reached a point of paralysis. He's lost faith in his work. He no longer thinks it's worth doing. He's not sure that he hasn't wasted decades on his work. The man was explaining that he'd gotten lost because he's so bad at following maps. He says, whenever I see one of those signs that says, "You are here," it might as well be a picture of the universe with an arrow pointing roughly to our galaxy. It never helps me. And then off they went, that was all. But BW had been slipping into a crisis very much like the one he now ascribes to the young man. So he uses the young man as a way of exploring his own purposes. So that becomes the first work within the total work of persistence.
So we're in New York here.
We're in New York, and we're sometimes in Catalunya and some other places which are designed to obscure the location of the place he refers to as an undisclosed location.
I should have brought my stuff. Allow people to insert themselves into the story. Karaoke culture. And,
Your new topic.
Absolutely, yeah. You saw it here first. He keeps proposing the old notion that if he could only get away from where he is now, he would better be able to work, better be able to make the work that he existed before. The whole thing that runs against the Emersonian idea that your giant goes with you wherever you go, you can't escape. He thinks that so many of us have from time to time. If I could only be in different circumstances, I'd be a better fighter and artist.
You made a promise to the future?
In a way, there are things that I want to do in my future, things that I want to get done.
So you mean that you've made a promise to yourself, a promise about your future? Promises are heavy things. I hate the weight of them. I never make them.
Please. I don't want to talk about the future just now, not at present. More of a thing. Why? Big dreams. It's too tantalizing. It's out there. I seem to be able to see it, and I want it, but I can't have it. Why not? I've got to discharge that debt to the past.
Why? Why do you have to discharge that debt? Couldn't you just ignore it or run from it? Well, first, some of those promises are promises to other people, and second, I'm just not the type. What type?
The type that doesn't pay his debts. The type that doesn't keep his promises. The type that runs.
So you feel that you can't accomplish anything? You can't make progress? You're stuck where you are? Yeah.
Until my debt to the past is paid.
You're feeling the weight of it. It's keeping you here, earthbound, and ponderous.
Yes, I'd like to fly. I think I could soar. My future seems light, but my debt to the past
Must be discharged, I know.
Must be discharged, I know. So discharge it. Easy for you to say.
And is it so hard for you to do?
Yes, the weight of it. The weight of the obligation oppresses me, depresses me.
Yes, the weight of it. The weight of the obligation oppresses me. I know.
So everyone's beginning to depress me too.
It's beginning to depress me too. My point is that I'm struggling. I'm collapsing under the weight. I'm being crushed.
Very dramatic. Do you want me to tell you what to do?
Very dramatic. Do you want me to tell you what to do?
You want me to tell you what to do?
Do you know what to do?
I do. But do you want to hear it?
I think so, but I'm not sure. Well, okay, go ahead. The weight is too great, so diminish it. Chip away at it, a little bit at a time. Diminish it, bit by bit.
That's your advice? Chip away at it?
That's my advice. Now don't disappoint me by failing to see the wisdom of it.
I see the wisdom of it, but I had hoped for some trick, something quick and easy.
I offered that, but you said that you couldn't run from the past, couldn't ignore the obligations.
I am obligated to chip away at my obligation to the past bit by bit until
you're free, light, and above it all, eager again, ready to fly away with it.
We'll call you off.
This video is that whole notion of being able to get away from it all in some place where the unseen man thinks that he could isolate himself sufficiently to do the kind of work he thinks he's capable of.
It's just insane.
It is. It's an undisclosed location.
Yeah. Fair.
It's Santa Pau in Garacha in Catalunya. But as the unseen woman says, it's such a beautiful place that we would begin to do nothing but savor. A cup of coffee would beguile a morning. We'd watch the fruit ripen. We'd eat the fruit when it ripened. We'd discuss the quality of the fruit over our wine, and we would do nothing.
mind's eye, I can already picture them rising above it all, with the force of her will driving them where they want to go, where they want to be. That felt good.
Why didn't they come in together? I should have brought my stuff. I should have brought my stuff.
Here we are on the top floor. This is the floor that's designated as the author at work. Not quite the truth. And question and answer, which is the truth, except that the question and answer has a structure that I imposed on it. When people arrive up here, I'll invite them to ask a question and give them a question. They're all setups for me to say something about
and the structure may not take the form that we expect the narrative to take, but the structure is always there and always discernible. I couldn't discern a structure. It seems to me that persistence, and specifically this event, with its fragmentation of the narrative, the randomized audience participation, and the use of John Cages in a landscape, is deliberately unstructured, as if you were trying to say something almost, but not quite, profound about the role of chance and chaos in art. Am I right?
First of all, almost but not quite profound. May I use that in the advertising? Is that the okay?
You have to check with the author.
Oh, okay. All right. But on the question of chance, I agree with René Néret and Colette's La Vagabonde. Chance is my only God. But the truth is that there is a structure to persistence. And once you've experienced enough of persistence to perceive the structure, I think you will recognize it immediately. It's the structure of a pearl or of a Japanese Daruma doll. What are you doing this? Or Russian Matryoshka doll. And let's use the Matryoshka to show it. In the outer shell, layer of the whole thing is me. And inside, Peter Leroy and Albertine. Peter, who has stood in for me for a long time and made it possible for me to say some things that I wouldn't have said about my childhood and so on. Here we have a fellow named Matthew Barber, who was a childhood friend of Peter's. He lost touch with him after college, but began to look back and wonder about what might have become of him, and so constructed a plausible life for him that seemed good enough to be close enough to reality to believe in for Peter. Matthew has his own alter ego, BWB, whom he has used as a shield and a disguise from time to time. And BW now claims to have overheard this conversation with an unseen man who's undergoing a crisis of self-doubt. I suspect that this is pretty much a fabrication, and that BW was using this unseen man as a way of voicing his own self-doubt. I don't know, Lisa, who this is, I don't know. But that's the structure.
Several stories of the making of persistence, with each character at each level telling his or her story, or having it told for him or her by someone else. You've experienced most of the unseen man and woman's story, and a little of BW and Miranda's, but there are others that haven't appeared in tonight's event at all. Matthew and Matthew Barber's story, and Peter Leroy and Albertine Godet's story. And then there's my story. So yes, there's much more persistence in total. And for asking that question, have a manifesto.
I'm not done.
35. I'm sorry. It's on the card.
Where do you get your ideas?
I'm so glad you asked that. I prepared a schematic diagram to answer it. And this diagram illustrates the author's mind. Bear in mind that this is a schematic diagram, not a pictorial diagram. Right. And so let's see what we have here. We have this outer rim, the author's persona, which is a semi-permeable membrane. At once, it somewhat isolates the author from ambient reality, but it also allows reality to penetrate selectively through the membrane and travel into the author's mind, into the author's memory, because we have to remember that every experience is a mediated experience. There are no immediate experiences. And from the memory into the imagination, because imagination is nothing more than the operation, the chance operation of the brain on sensations in the memory. So it now looks like a pretty simple process from perception to publication. And a lot of little twists and twiggles in between. However, it is more complicated than that because let's take the case of BWB. Now we have something like this. Here's BWB's mind, completely surrounded by someone else's. Let me ignore all the dolls in between me and BW, and let's just say that this is my mind. Everything that BWB thinks he knows as ambient reality is within my imagination. So a perception from my world travels through this circuitous path and eventually becomes what BWB thinks is an idea. And where do I get my ideas? From undigested bits of mutton. Thank you for asking that question. I was afraid it might not come up. Would you like a manifesto?
Oh, well, absolutely.
What was the question? Actually, I forgot.
Where do you get your idea?
Oh.
She thinks that the reason he likes to spend time with her is that conversation with her is more interesting than talking to himself. But that's not really a ringing endorsement of the relationship. So that does make me wonder whether she is, to some degree at least, imaginary. No!
Oh. Okay.
Persistence did the trick for me. And I just finished the next installment in the personal history. Love at first sight.